it's going to be leading right from fall camp and getting into game week prep, and then traveling to Birmingham for it. It's something that we're really excited about. It'll be first chance to go on the road that first week and have time, kind of that bowl game postseason feel to it with some of the activities.
If you are in the transfer portal, you can die in the transfer portal if you want, or you can try your luck with us.
Hello, welcome back to Division I Rejects. This is D1R 205, presented by the Prowler. The Prowler is a recruiting service that gives athletes a tailored, relationship-driven experience that delivers real results. Hear from Representative and founder Preston and Josh later on in the episode to learn more about the Prowler. On this episode of D1R, we've got some incredible guests joining us here very shortly. The newest head coach from Valdosta State, Coach Graham Craig, joins the show with Athletic Director Troy Katen from the Blazers down there in Titletown. They'll check in ahead of the Week 0 Labor Day Classic, promoting the Week 0 matchup. They have two games going on down at Legion Field in Birmingham, Alabama. You've got West Alabama, Clark, Atlanta, Valdosta State, of course, and then Fort Valley State. So excited to see those four teams square off. Later on in the episode from the Prowler recruiting, we'll have Josh Roberts and Preston Pritchard join the show to talk about the Prowler, its services, and how it can help benefit some student athletes. Otherwise, though, stories in this week's episode. I think the big one, there's two big ones, and the first of which being that there is a massive rivalry series coming back to D2 football. Two MIAA teams that, we may as well talk about it. Northwest Missouri State, Pittsburg State, you probably saw it if you follow us on the social media. They're going back to a neutral site to renew this incredible rivalry series they have down there against two of what have been the best teams in D2 football history, two powerhouses. Excited to talk about what goes into that. We'll also do kind of a deep dive on each of those teams heading into 2025. Also, though, we had the first Division III player to sign an NFL deal this year, a guy who we had on the show very recently, Mitch Vanvooren, the former track and field athlete at Marquette, made his way down to D3 football with St. Norbert. He has signed with the Seattle Seahawks, so we'll break that down and talk about that later on. So it's an exciting episode today. As always, you can watch the episode on YouTube. Don't forget about the video chapters, timestamps in the description. You can listen pretty much anywhere else, though, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you name it. Before we get into that first guest conversation, we do have a featured athlete on tonight's episode, that being Kabren Thomas out of Covenant Christian Academy down in Louisiana, a class of 2026 offensive lineman and defensive tackle playing both sides of the ball. He wears number 73, 5'11", 238 pounds. He's a multi-sport athlete, also on the basketball team. He was an all-state honorable mention, first-team all-district type performer. What you need to know about him, he plays with a high motor, follows the play downfield. Feels like that's an underappreciated work of linemen, finishing plays after their assignment and following the ball carrier. Definitely needs to work on his pad level and his leverage, but he's got experience on both sides of the offensive line, playing on the right and left side. Quick first step at the tackle position. Certainly hasn't reached his ceiling, but he's at upside, especially if he's considering moving to the interior position on the line of scrimmage at the next level. Now, you don't see him manhandling people, not exactly the mauler type, but he certainly plays with the physicality that this position requires. Excited watching this film. Definitely feels like a guy that fits right into our wheelhouse. That could be a D3 or a Division II quality type player. He can be very disruptive on the defensive side of the football. I think his ceiling might even be higher on defense than expected. So those are kind of the cliff notes on Kabren. Now you get to hear from him about why college coaches should bring him into their program.
I'm a great leader on and off the field. I can fill any role that a coach need me to get into, or any position. I like to lead for the younger ones too. That's my main thing I like to do. I'm a leader in the classroom too. I got good grades. I like to pay attention, make sure I got that down. And anything that need to be done, I got it.
Joining the show, the 12th head football coach at Valdosta State. He was the offensive coordinator behind the national championship appearance for the Blazers in 2024. Checking in from Titletown, Coach Graham Craig, joined by Athletic Director Troy Katen ahead of the Week 0 Labor Day Classic in Birmingham, Alabama. Fellas, all that to say, super excited to have you on here. Thanks for joining me.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Appreciate it, Kobe. Thank you.
Pumped about it. And Coach, I'll start with you. It's kind of a full circle deal for you in a sense, I think. You spent some time playing for the Blazers back in 2012. This fall, you make your debut as the one leading them out of the tunnel at Legion Field. Tell me about what goes into that.
Man, it's really special for me. I enjoyed my time here as a player so much, and to be able to come back here as the offensive coordinator and now be the head coach. It's something that has been awesome, and I'm super excited about the season coming up.
100%. And you have good reason to be, by the way. And you talk about looking at last year, and of course, last year's team, I'm sure you and every other coach in the country would tell me that doesn't mean squat going into 2025 and this fall, but it kind of does when you have a top 25 passing and rushing offense a year ago. Of course, you lose the guy, the Harlan Hill finalist under center, and Sammy Edwards that we enjoyed having on previously. But tell me what the outlook is on this group and this Blazer offense and what people need to know about them going into 2025.
We got some players coming back that we're really excited about, and then obviously some new guys coming in that when we get into fall camp, we're going to get some really quick evaluations on and figure out who we're going to be offensively and who we're going to be as a football team. So fall camp will be really big for us leading into this week 0 game.
And Troy, obviously the old adage goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And with the success you guys had last year, bringing on Coach and trying to keep this internal, I'm assuming that was always the thought, but what in your mind makes Coach Craig the right man to lead this program heading into this fall?
Yeah, I don't know if you always say if it's not fixed, don't break it, but it's mine's a big and coach knows this too. It's more of the right fit.
Yes, sir.
You know, and yes, we were he was very instrumental in getting us to where we were at the national championship game, and obviously that's very, very important with continuity. But at the same time, I mean, we have a great opportunity to look at that, and I think he stood up above everybody else that interviewed, everybody else that we took a look at, not just because it was a given he's on staff, because it's you do things the right way, we win the right way, we treat our student athletes the right way, and they have a great experience, great education, and you win and you have a lot of fun along the way. So there was a lot of aspects into it. Yeah, I mean, he was very, probably top of our list looking at it. And that was conversations we had. Obviously it goes both ways. You got to find out, and just can't hope, hey, I hope he takes it or this. We've had conversations and that had a lot of coach wanted to be here and his family as well. And like you said, kind of full circle, that means a lot that to coaches and that you think enough of them to come back and lead a program that's very special to them, not only as a player, but now as an assistant coach, and now he takes over as the head coach. So we are very excited with it and have full confidence in him and his staff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a one-man deal. It takes a whole unit, a whole village, if you will, to make that operation run. And Troy, you're a big part of that as well, obviously, at the helm of this department. And going into this fall, that's one of the big storylines, but there are a lot, right? Legion Field, one that has hosted the Iron Bowl, the Magic City Classic, more college and pro football than probably I or any of us can recount. What is the expectation for that weekend and what alumni and fans will bring to what is now a historic site in college football, Troy?
I think it's a great opportunity. First and foremost, we're very thankful to be kind of partnered in with other institutions as well, and have that week 0 opportunity to make it a little bit special with the venue, the town, and that just, again, we talked about student athlete experience that gives them that other big time opportunity. Not only them, but their families, our alumni, and that's very important. Is we have that expectation of coming in, and we're going to put something really good on the field as a product, and hopefully that helps us the rest of the season.
100%. I would definitely agree with that. And now, Coach, what changes about your preparation, if anything, going into a game like this? Neutral site, a lot of other activities planned around that weekend.
With it being the first game, obviously it's gonna be leading right from fall camp and getting into game week prep, and then traveling to Birmingham for it. It's something that we're really excited about. It'll be first chance to go on the road that first week and have time, kind of that bowl game postseason feel to it with some of the activities that the game will be putting on, and we're really excited about doing that. But the main focus is getting our football team prepared to play against a really good Clark Atlanta football team.
100%, and that was kind of the follow-up on that. What do you know about this Clark Atlanta team, a team that certainly made some noise out of the SIAC?
Obviously played in the conference championship last year, was really explosive on offense. We played Miles in the first in the playoffs last year, and ended up seeing them. They played Clark Atlanta twice, so got to see them on film twice, and a team that had a really good year, and obviously we know is going to be a really good football team.
Yes, sir. I think that's what we're all hoping for, and I think that's going to deliver. I know you guys will pick up your end of the bargain there. Troy, from your perspective, what kind of things go into putting on an event like this from the administration side? This is a massive undertaking for all parties, and you and your staff obviously have to be at the forefront of all of it.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot to it. It's a little bit more than what we would have probably as a home game, but you go into starting out, just the logistics of everything is how do we get doing tickets? Where do we get that? How do we partner with the hosts? To what do we do in alumni compared to, or not compared to, but also you're throwing in making sure the team and everybody travels seamlessly. Then we throw in, if we can, the opportunity to take our band and our cheer and dance teams and kind of make it that preseason bowl type of environment.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to go with it, and there's time frames you have to check off and hit ahead of time to make sure you're reserving things a little bit earlier, but also getting it out on the marketing aspect of it. And then you move into the alumni stuff, and we do have a pretty good alumni base around Birmingham and the surrounding area. That how do we help our foundation, our alumni director promote that as well, along with the hosts, and that's an exciting part of it. But yeah, there's a lot of little things to check off, and we have an internal clock that we want to do that by, to make sure that Coach Graham doesn't have any hiccups or anything when he gets into fall camp. So we're trying to get that all done ahead of time for them, so it's seamless, and they can focus on what they need to do, and we'll focus on what we need to do.
And you kind of touched on it already. The fact that band, cheerleaders, those kind of other deals will be traveling with is certainly usually the exception, not really the expectation typically for a game like this. And that's going to elevate the experience. What are some of those things that will elevate this experience for those fans, alumni, other people that show up in that weekend?
Well, I think the hosts, they have Mr. Stone and those guys have a great opportunity of what they're doing and wrapping it around. And I think just not only just with us playing, but with 4 schools playing, and you create that atmosphere in that little excitement around the venue. And then, they're having some other things with barbecue contests and some stuff for our student athletes as well the night before. So, I mean, there's things that that's a big part of it, to where we can entice and make it a great weekend for not only our student athletes, but their families, our alumni, and build off of that.
100%. Coach, from your perspective, how do the fans and alumni try to help you guys make this a memorable experience in Birmingham come August?
Just being there to support us. It's obviously a really cool event that get to see 2 games for the day, and another good game coming. Obviously, we're playing the first game, and another really good game after us. So it's an opportunity to get to support your team, but also to get to see some really good football for some other teams as well.
Absolutely. And going off of that, too, how do you think a big event like this can create that homecoming type of atmosphere? Troy kind of touched on it earlier. You have an alumni base over there. What can an event like this do to spur some of those people and maybe reinvigorate them into a program and a team that has had this high level of success?
I think with the environment and the great environment that we're expecting for the game, and to be able to play a game in Alabama that's not a state that we've played many games in, and having the neutral site environment will be a really good atmosphere for all teams involved.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. And you're no stranger to the big stage, right? Previous stop at Memphis had you in SEC territory, among other spots. But for your athletes, this might be their first opportunity to play in a massive venue. How do you balance, quote unquote, keeping the blinders on, so to speak, with allowing and encouraging them to make the most of this weekend?
We just, first and foremost, got to be focused on the football game. And there's obviously going to be a lot of things going into a week 0 game like this, but the main focus will be on the team and getting them prepared for the game.
Well said. Well said. You've coached him up well, Troy. You got him answering the right way. But both you guys, seriously, appreciate you so much. Looking forward to this August. I know you guys both are as well. Thank you for joining me on the show.
Thank you so much, Kobe.
Absolutely. Have a good one. Huge thank you to Coach Craig and for Troy for joining the show. Excited about the Week 0 Labor Day Classic down there in Birmingham. And I guess to kind of soft break the news, D1 Rejects is planning on being on site for those games. So definitely get excited about that one. Definitely still in the works, but that is the plan. Come August, we are going to be down in Alabama covering some of those Week 0 Labor Day Classic games. But we've got an insane rivalry series coming back to D2 football. Two of the best teams in Division II football history will be squaring off once again at an incredible neutral site. The Northwest Missouri State Bearcats take on the Pittsburg State Gorillas. This time it'll be in Children's Mercy Park inside of Kansas City. And this is a rivalry that goes back, like I said, two of the best teams in D2 football history. This game's taking place on November 15th of this year. They've signed a 2-year contract for 25 and 26. And to know the history of this matchup, I think is important before we start going into this year, the stadium, and those kind of deals. The Gorillas, the Bearcats, they've met in Kansas City 13 previous times. And what's notable about that matchup is that 7 of the 13 games drew an attendance of at least 20,000 fans. This is not for, playoff or championship type of game. This is a regular season game between two of the best teams in the country. 7 of 13, 20,000 fans or more. Now, the stadium they're playing at this year is a little bit different than the past. Previously, they played at what was known as Arrowhead Stadium, the Chiefs, right? Now known as GEHA Stadium. I don't know exactly when that flipped over. That's kind of news to me. But they used to play in Arrowhead. That's what you need to know. This year, though, it's not taking place in Arrowhead. It'll be at Children's Mercy Park, which I personally had not heard of. I certainly need to get hip. Check out this stadium where they will be playing. Children's Mercy Park was home to the NCAA Division II National Championship game for 4 seasons, from 2014 to 2017. Northwest actually captured the program's 5th and 6th national titles in this exact venue. So the Bearcats have played in this stadium before. They've won 2 national championships inside of this stadium already. Now, albeit it has been a little bit since their last national championship, none of the guys on this current roster were there to see that, but definitely some history inside of this venue. And you look at this courtesy video here, courtesy of Daktronics, you look at this video of this venue, Sporting KC, obviously a little bit of a European football flair down there in Kansas City, but this is an incredible venue, and a lot of these soccer pitch venues I think actually suited very well for the American football game. Granted, the field size is a little bit smaller than the quote-unquote pitch. So that's a look at the venue they'll be playing in, which is really exciting. And to get into more of this and more of this matchup, these are 2 storied programs. I talked about it earlier on. Pittsburg State, they've got 2 national championships, 27 playoff wins at the D2 level in their program's history. Do believe they also have 2 NAIA national championships before they made that transition back in, I want to say, the 80s. Northwest Missouri, though, they have 6 national titles, 53 playoff wins at the Division II level. This is the team that has been the most storied probably in D2 football. Ferris State now is on a run that maybe could match up to this. We'll see how the next half decade pans out, but this Northwest team has a ton of history. So let's talk about this 2025 matchup. Northwest Missouri State, they lost an all-conference running back this past year, Tank Young. That was just a year after losing the first-team All-American running back Jay Harris to Oregon. Damn near RBU down there for the Bearcats in Northwest Missouri. They seriously have put out some incredible talent the last couple of years. That was a big loss for them going into this fall, of course, but otherwise, it looks like they lose a few playmakers from what I can tell in the database that I have access to. Surprisingly, have not been devastated by the portal from what I can tell, even with bringing in a new head coach. That's something that obviously, when you bring in a new head of a program, very oftentimes you see a mass exodus from a program because people don't know what's going to happen. Now, the guy in charge of this program moving forward for the Bearcats, you'll see why they're sticking around. John McMenamin, the new head coach of Northwest football. He is a Bearcat alum, class of 2002. He won 2 national championships as a player, was a first-team All-American, and a captain at quarterback for Northwest. So that right there, that's stability. That's bringing a guy back to the program. Now, to talk about his coaching career before coming back to Northwest. Most recently, co-offensive coordinator at Tulane. Before that, was the head coach at D2 Wayne State College, and then was the offensive coordinator at MIAA Foe Central Missouri. So a very, very great resume for Coach McMenamin and a great reason to bring him back. This guy has all the right things that you're looking for of the head coach of a great storied program at the D2 level. And again, from what I can tell, looking at this, they've got their starting quarterback, Chris Ruhnke, coming back. His favorite target and leading wide receiver, Luke Matthews, is back this fall after a junior campaign. He had over 700 yards. And the big question mark for that offense going into this year is, can they take care of the ball? Ruhnke last year, 19 touchdowns to 14 interceptions. That is a ratio that, especially when you play teams like Pittsburg State on a regular basis, that has to be better. Now, what gives me confidence, McMenamin, I gave you a little bit of his background right there, being an offensive kind of mastermind, playing quarterback at the college level, being the play caller at some of these very prominent programs, D2 and D1. If there's a guy that can fix that turnover ratio and get this offense going in the right direction, it will be McMenamin. So excited about that. That's kind of a quick look and preview at the Northwest team heading into 2025. Let's move over and talk about Pittsburg State, though. They lost a few players to the portal. Didn't see a lot of names in the database, so I was pleasantly surprised about that. Their leading rusher, Noah Hernandez, he graduates, but you bring back Cleo Chandler Jr. to take on that running back one role in the backfield. He had almost 500 yards and 4 touchdowns a year ago. The toughest loss for them, and this is a guy we had on the show I really enjoyed, is quarterback Chad Dotson. And that's a guy who, put up the right stats, obviously. He filled the stat book and is a great quarterback in his own right, but was one of those guys that was an intangible type of player. It had a lot of composure. I think that was a word that I like to use with him and watching him play. A lot of composure from him, very tough quarterback, and a guy that really, I think, embodied the identity of this Pittsburg State team. Now, the backup Jake Wolf, maybe the one under center come fall. Not sure where that position group battle is right now. I'm obviously not in the facility. I'm assuming Jake Wolf will be the starter. Not sure who they've brought in to help supplement that position, but losing Dodson for sure will be a tough thing to overcome. This is a team, too, that in very recent history was decimated by the transfer portal. After the 2023 season, head coach Brian Wright took the job at D1 FCS Northern Arizona and rightfully took some of that top talent with them, right? Your coach moves up. You have familiarity with that group of guys who have probably the skill set to go play at the FCS level, if we're playing honest. You poach some of those guys, bring them with you. Some other guys went out to different institutions when a head coach leaves, very common. So they lost a lot of talent then. Tom Anthony comes in. He's taken over the job for the Gorillas. In year one, he has kept them right in the mix. Right? It's one thing to come into a program and have zero expectations and try and turn something around. It's another to come into a program that has every expectation, the most winning program in D2 football history when it comes to winning percentage, I do believe. He has kept the Gorillas right in the mix. He was previously the defensive coordinator for the Gorillas back all the way up until 2022 or 23, I believe. So a very exciting time for both these programs. Pittsburg State maybe on a little bit more of a high than Northwest. A lot can change. A lot can change in just 1 year. Now, an interesting piece about the Gorillas. Pittsburg State has to have the toughest schedule in Division II football, and I don't even think it's close. When you look at this, you start things off week 0 at defending national championship. At defending national champion. I don't know why that was a tough one. You start things off week 0 at defending national champion Ferris State, who went 14-1 last year. That's their week 0 matchup. Now, 14-1, they lost last year. That was to Pittsburg State. The Gorillas were the only team to beat Ferris in 2024 back in Pittsburg. That's an incredible matchup and one that we'll certainly be tuned into. Now, week 1 at Central Oklahoma, a team that went 11-2 inside of the MIAA last year. Then you do not get a gimme. You go at home against Grand Valley State, who is also 11-2 in 2024. Keep things going. You're back at home. Fort Hays State, who was 8-3. You go at Emporia State, 7-4. Versus Nebraska Kearney, 5-6. And then against Washburn, who was 3-8 last year. They've got a new head coach, some other pieces. Definitely expect that to be a more competitive bout. You go at Missouri Western, who was 4-7. Against Missouri Southern at home, 2-9. And you close out the year before the Northwest match. In week 10, you go on the road to Central Missouri, who was 9-3 a year ago with one of the most explosive offenses in college football, and you close things out in Kansas City at Children's Mercy Park versus Northwest Missouri State, who was 6-5 last year, but has a lot of things to be excited about going into 2025. That's a game that could have MIAA championship implications right there. So you line up all of that. I know I went through that very quickly. But for those of you who are familiar with this level of football, the MIAA is far and away the best conference in D2 football right now, and it's not even close. The top end of the GLIAC is very good. The top end of the Gulf South is very good. The top end of the Northern Sun is very good. None of them have the depth that the MIAA has right now. And that's coming from a GLIAC guy, right? I played in the GLIAC. Nobody has the depth the MIAA has right now, and no one has put that on display on the national stage more than this conference. So very excited about that matchup. Now, before we talk about the D3 player signing an NFL deal, let's cut over to that conversation with the fellas over at the Prowler. Joining the show tonight, representing the Prowler, it's D3 Belhaven product and founder, Preston Pritchard, alongside Josh Roberts. Good to have you.
What's up, man? What's up? Happy to be here.
Happy to have you guys on here, man. And before we get talking about the services that you guys provide, I think it's important to give me a little bit on your background, Preston. What brought you to create the Prowler in the first place, man?
So what kind of brought me to create the Prowler is, a lot of athletes go overlooked that come up from a 3A, 4A, or smaller school, right? Because they don't have a recruiting specialist at their school. They don't have them on their staff because they're not going to these big 6A and 7A prominent schools that are, running through D1 athletes every year. And so due to that, I went to college for computer science, played football as well at Belhaven. And during that time, I just kind of brainstormed the idea that I came up with during my senior capstone, actually, for my bachelor's degree, was an AI capability for an AI tool to be embedded into these players' social media, specifically X, to pursue. So that's pretty much a streamline of things, just streamline it more and give them a roadmap to success where they see 100% success rate now currently. So
that's awesome, man. What an interesting twist, too. Right, from the original major, obviously being around the game and enjoying the game and finding a very unique in and a way to provide and give back for some of these student athletes. Now, Josh, on the other end of things, how do you fit into the equation when it comes to the Prowler? Love the polo, by the way. That's clean.
Absolutely, man. So I handle all of our client success and operations part of the business. I always joke with Preston, although we both work in tech and we study tech. I'm more of a people's person.
There you go.
So I definitely handle all of the onboarding, the weekly check-ins that we have with our athletes. All of that stuff pretty much funnels through me. Like I said, or like Preston said, rather, we tend to think that we offer a lot better services than your major recruiting platforms.
Yeah.
And part of that falls squarely on my shoulders, just providing that human touch. As all, we're all former athletes here. One thing that I can say, and I think I speak for everyone when I say this, oftentimes athletes, they're only viewed as the athlete, and associated to their sport.
Mm-hmm.
People forget there's an actual human there as well who, may have, like home issues going on or some kind of mental health issue or anything. And they just need someone to talk to that's not completely biased, right? So that's part of my role.
Absolutely. And you're always going to identify someone who has those same shared experiences, if you will, right? Which is an important piece of that. Now, you've got a basketball background, correct?
Correct.
Sweet. And so now this service, if I'm understanding correctly, it's not specifically for football players. You guys do things. This is open to all kinds of athletes?
Yeah, so we actually have a web scraping tool that I have created that makes it an automatic dashboard for all sports. So we have a repository for all sports, all recruiting contacts is grouped together into one database for the athlete. Once an athlete comes on board, pretty much what ultimately happens is they're deployed into their separate shell where the AI will run based off of that database. That database is pursued off of whatever contacts is listed on the staff directory. So whatever staff directory, at the school you're coaching at right now, Northern Michigan, whatever's presented on there, if it's just their email, that's all that our AI is going to pursue because that's all it can find. But that's just a short summary, and that pertains to all schools because all sports are on their staff director. They have all contacts, so we can do any sport, you can name it. We can do lacrosse if you want us to. So
absolutely, man. Love that. Now, I was kind of curious too, like if you're giving the elevator pitch for someone who is maybe on the fence about this or was looking and just starting to browse the market for some kind of recruiting service, what is, Preston, for you, the elevator pitch of why your platform is separate from others and why it should be the one they choose?
So do you want to either put your name into a database and hope a coach finds you, or do you want to put your name into the Prowler database where we reach directly out from your player's profile to the coach? The coaches are not going to know it's the AI. They're going to think it's you.
Okay. I like that. To the point. That was a good pitch, by the way. Good elevator pitch, short and to the point, man. And you kind of touched on it already. You talk about the database side. And Josh, I wanted to ask you what separates the Prowler. I'm sure it's a lot of along the same lines from those other platforms, the NCSA, the Max Preps, those things that people might be familiar with. What is it about the Prowler that you think separates it and it makes it kind of gives you guys an advantage in this space?
A number of things Preston has already mentioned, right? So the web scraping tool, that's great, that's fine. The tech is going to be the tech. But one thing that I always ask the athletes on a daily basis between going to school, your workouts, your extra workout, your extra workout, doing your homework, how many emails or how many, reach outs are you actually getting off a day? Let's all be transparent here. I know when I was going through high school, that number varied. Some days it was like 2 emails a day, right? Whereas with our system, it's a consistent flow of reaching out, consistently sending these coaches your transcripts, your ACT scores or SAT scores, your highlights, all of that good stuff. And like Preston said, it's not coming from a recruiting service. Some of those bigger competitors, when they reach out to these coaches, it says their name in the email handle or their name on the Twitter or the X. I'm going to tell you now, Coach, I have a hard time calling X Twitter.
I'm right with you. I'm right with you. I refuse, actually. I actually blatantly refuse.
Yeah, so when you guys hear me refer to this as Twitter, sue me. Sorry, don't actually. But seriously, though, it's just a consistent way for these athletes to reach out and show themselves. It shows these coaches, hey, these athletes are really invested. They're trying. When in reality, all the athlete did is let us do the work for them.
Yeah. No, I think that's a big deal, right? And how it's presented, right? The message might be very similar, but how it's presented could be a whole nother way, and it could be perceived very differently by that coaching staff or whoever's on the other end of that. Now, I wanted you, Preston, to talk about your most recent signing class, right? What have you learned going through that process, and what results have come to show the benefit to these student athletes, man?
Well, we produced another 100%, signing class. Everybody was given the opportunity of three or more offers. But I want to first go into the new transfer portal world because it's a different world that we live in now. And I lived through it with one of my former athletes this past year that was a D1 football commit, and still is. But he was given several Power 4 offers, and they were all pulled within 2 weeks' time.
Wow.
So what I got to tell athletes nowadays is when you're a athlete and you're a 3-star or barely that 4-star, you better take an offer run when you get it. And nowadays, with a new ruling that you don't have to sign a letter of intent anymore, don't be afraid to verbally commit, because once you verbally commit, you win that check mark on the board for them. You can always decommit until the end of the summer now due to that new sign of the letter ruling by the NCAA. So with that ruling, I tell athletes all the time, if you're not that 5-star or almost 5-star, you better take your offers very, very serious, because they could be yanked within a day or so nowadays.
That's a good point, man. I know that's on your site too, and you mentioned it. 100% success rate. I think you kind of covered it as well. What does that mean in your eyes? Obviously, success for some might just mean having an opportunity. Maybe it means actually signing and playing. Maybe it means a certain number of offers. What does that success rate mean? How do you quantify that?
So that success rate pretty much means that every player that's came through our services got an offer.
Okay.
Now we try to be transparent up front. That's why we implemented the Prowler star rating, which is a totally different ball game compared to 247 and max preps. We're not going to, babysit it any. We're going to tell the truth of where you currently stand. And we're going to see where you currently stand. And that means we can pluck you from your high school team right now and put you onto a D2 or D3 team based on your star rating in our system.
Okay.
Through that rating, that's going to tell us where our AI bot should target the most schools at. So let's say you pay that 1 to 6 state package. You pick whichever state you pick. Whichever state you pick, you're going to get allotted all the schools in there, no matter their affiliation. But based on your rating, that's good. If let's say you're a 3-star, we're going to pursue those D3 and D2 schools first. That AI bot is. So with that being said, because we think your chances are better for that, and I think Josh can speak more to it because he has a more not so tech savvy mind like I have all the time. But pretty much, when the AI bot gets deployed, it's targeting those schools first because that's where the most potential is.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let's hear that from the people person then when it comes to this Prowler specific rating. I think that's a very unique concept.
Yeah. So there was a lot to unpack there from what Preston said, right? Number one, the recruiting the star system is not a knock against anyone else's ratings and star system,
Yep.
but I think as athletes, we can all agree we've played those 5 stars where you genuinely question how they have any stars at all, right? But then on the flip side, we've all played against that unranked kid who was the best person we've ever seen in our life, right? So with our ranking system, is kind of what Preston mentioned. We're honest with you. We're looking to evaluate what we physically see, but then also like what doesn't jump out on tape. We're looking at the intangibles, the IQ. Are you a good person? For me, in my instance, are you a good person on the court? When your teammate falls down, like, are you running to go pick them up, or are you just kind of walking away and letting them get up on their own? All the little things like that all kind of morph into, okay, are you a 3-star? Are you a 4-star athlete? Like Preston mentioned, if we pluck you from your high school team, or even if you're a transfer athlete, it works the same way. Can we pluck you from your current team and go market you to a high level D1 school or a high level D2 school or whatever the case may be? And another thing with our ranking system, we are constantly reevaluating. So let's say if we have a high school junior joins our program, they're going to get that first start, that first set of rankings. Going into their senior season, updated weight, updated, all of that good stuff, measurables, and we have updated film, going to reevaluate. Now, maybe instead of being a 3-star, maybe now you're a 4.5 because you grew 6 inches, right?
Yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, I got to give the best case scenario, man.
Yeah.
But either way, on a serious note, and I tell this to all of our athletes, just because we say you're a 3-star right here, right now, that does not mean in 4 or 5 months that you can't be a 4 or 5-star. Next point I want to bring up is so critical because I really wish this would have been a thing for me. With that 1 to 6 state package that Preston mentioned, right? Kids now have the ability to choose where they want to be recruited at. So for me, I grew up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. My goal ultimately was to get out of Louisiana, right? Now, like I said earlier in the episode, I was only sending off maybe 2 to 5 emails a day, so it didn't really gain that much traction. But now, to today's kids, they can say, hey, I live in Louisiana, but I really want to go to the West Coast, or I want to go up north, or go down South Florida or something like that. All of that is now at your fingertips because we're doing all the work for you.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And you talk about these, especially the D2 and D3 levels. Yes, they have guys who have area recruiting coaches, but a lot of the times you're talking about a very minimum state distance. You might have a little bit of a pipeline. I think comes top of mind, Ferris State and Michigan. They go down to South Florida and they bring in 5 or 6 kids every year. Do they recruit Georgia, Alabama, Texas? Not nearly as much as they do Florida. For some reason, that just sticks, right? But most schools, especially at this level, have a very regionalized recruiting plan divided up among those coaches that also are not just recruiting coordinators, right? They're coaching their own positions. So that's a neat deal. But I did want to ask, what do athletes need to do to get started with you guys? What is that first step for them?
So that first step pretty much involves Josh. They're going to set up a meeting. And he's going to walk them through what kind of the phases look like with the Prowler, and which I'll let Josh break them down in a minute. But when you sign on with the Prowler, you're not only going to get a personal feel, we're also going to walk you through step-by-step of how to get onboarded with us, which onboarded with us will look a lot like how we're going to pursue all the schools for you. With that being said, once you get onboarded, then you'll pick your states out that you want. Then you'll get deployed into our database. And based off of that, then we'll collect information that you fill in the questionnaire to generate your AI introduction email to these coaches.
Okay.
And with that being said, that's why we enforce a lot of our athletes to have as much information to us as possible, because if you have all the information to us, as in a transcript, ACT score, and all that we can attach to that AI generated introduction email or X message, that gives that coach not only by one click away from being able to see everything of you except for your highlight link, but he can literally look at a message and see if he wants to pursue you or not.
Yeah.
We were just speaking to a collegiate baseball coach and a collegiate basketball coach the other day, which I did by myself. They both had the same response. They said, if you do not have your transcript, it doesn't have to be official. It can be unofficial, but as long as it's got your state legend on the top, they're more likely to look at you deeper. They're more likely to take that bit better look at you. If you're just shooting them over your highlight film, they're ignoring it pretty much every day unless you're that dog. So
yeah. No, I think that's good. Josh, what do those kind of onboarding things look like from the student athlete perspective when they get started with you guys?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, it'll be the onboarding call with myself. You can fill out the player questionnaire and get a call scheduled on our website, which will be linked in the bio or somewhere, I'm assuming. But then from there, right, we're going to get you all set up. You're going to have your own Google Drive, and we're going to have everything set up so you can upload your own transcripts, upload your own testing scores, your highlights, all your measurables, all of that good stuff, right? Then from there, we're going to go do our own eval. And we're going to sit down, take a long, hard look at the athlete and say, okay, hey, this is where we think you are right now. This is kind of our recommended path for you. Maybe we say, hey, we think you need to go to a D2 for a year or so. Maybe add 10 pounds of muscle. And then you're up to D1 level right after that. But we'll lay out that optimal path. But then we'll also meet with the athlete and say, hey, where do you think you belong? Where do you want to be? Right? It's not a one-way street with us. And that's one thing that I've noticed that I've really grown to love about the Prowler. It's not a one-way street. It's very collaborative, very intentional. Every time we reach out, we're not just reaching out to say, hey, your payment is due, hey, we need this crazy fee or something. Every time we reach out, it's with the purpose. It's intentional. We had a call with the kid last week and his mom, and pretty much we went down the whole road, and the mom was just saying, sometimes I just feel like he's being delayed but not denied. And I was like, wow, that's powerful.
I like
right?
that. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Every athlete can resonate with that. And that's been our calling card ever since. Every time I reach out to them, it's hashtag delayed, not denied. So everything is intentional. There's no cookie cutter business over here. So after the evaluation, we'll have that extra meeting to see which way we want to go. And then from there, the AI bot is doing its thing. Now, what's very, very important here is, and this is where we really need the athletes to cooperate with us, we need their logins to their social media. Because again, these coaches, we promise you guys, they will respond to you and to our messages because it's your face.
Yeah.
Right. The way I like to describe it, we like to do all the hard work and let everyone else get all the credit. Right. So we genuinely need the athletes to understand this. And this is for transfer athletes. This is for high school athletes. Let us do the hard work for you. Give us those login credentials. Give us that email address. And give us that link to the highlights. Mm-hmm. I promise you will sit back and be amazed at how fast this thing works.
I love it, man. That was good. Really in depth. I definitely feel like I have a much better idea of kind of what that entails than I had coming into it. Anything else you guys want to add on that?
Yeah, I'll just add this. So the first athlete that ever came on board with us was about 2.5 years ago, and this is a pretty remarkable story. He was going into his senior year, and his dad didn't think he had a chance to play college ball at all. Now he's playing at Illinois College up in Illinois, which is a pretty solid D3 program.
Yep.
I think everybody can recognize
Blue Boys.
them. Yep. But once he came into our program, before his first game of his senior year, he had 0 offers. Within the first month, he had 22 offers with us. And this is a player that thought he would never play the college football field.
Mm-hmm.
That just speaks volume of how fast this thing works and how good. And that's also based on the information he gave us. He gave us every single piece of information that we could utilize. His ACT score was there, transcript was there, everything. So the AI could fully capitalize on every advantage it had. With that being said, what's also crazy, and it doesn't get spoken of enough, is once we get access to these kids' X, not only are we shooting messages out, but our AI prompts it sometimes to post a offer post. So if a player gets offered, it's going to prompt me to make that post automatically through my repository. Now I got to take it. I have to take it and copy it and put it on there. But that's why when you see an athlete part of the Prowler, they're not missing an offer post, because that offer post is going to generate more views than you can imagine. And then that's how it spreads to another school. That other school is going to be like, okay, I got to look at this kid because my rival school offered him.
Mm-hmm.
I got to get in on the bullet. I think Josh and I both know, playing in Jackson at the school we played at, every time a kid got offered by Belhaven, you better believe that guy across the street, Milltops, was offering them right back.
Yep.
I like that, man. Snowballs. That's definitely real. Very real.
Yep. And that's another capability that, different makes us different, because we're not just a you're just not putting your name in the portal. Pretty much what NCSA is. I'm sorry, I'm the biggest hater of NCSA, but if you're throwing your money at NCSA, you're not. I mean, Josh, you can speak on this. What did the coach say the other day? He gets the messages all the time in his email and clicks spam on them. He's not looking at it. But guess what? When he gets the email from the Prowler, it doesn't say the Prowler. It says your name. And that's another thing is when you come onto your service, if your handle or your Gmail is not your name, we're going to make sure it's your name before our AI.
That's huge.
Yep.
Because a coach is not going to look at you if your name is Shiesty 2.0.
Yep.
They're not looking at you.
Damn right. Yeah, 100% agreed, man. 100%. Yeah. No, I think that's fantastic, guys. I think you guys are definitely on the right track, and it's a unique angle on something that, yeah, maybe it exists, but you guys certainly sounds like you've optimized the process. So I feel really good about it. Thank you guys very much for joining the show, man. Excited to hopefully continue to follow along and see you, further along these classes and help more athletes out.
Yeah, man.
Sure.
One parting word I will say for all you athletes who are watching: if you are in the transfer portal, you can die in the transfer portal if you want.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can try your luck with us. I would prompt you to try your luck.
Yes, I would too, because I just posted the other day 63% either downgraded or did not find a home this past transfer portal. So just remember, if you want to go up, you got to come Prowler up first.
Yep.
I like that. We need to get that on the next set of T-shirts, fellas. That's solid. Yeah, but awesome. Preston, Josh, thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it. Have a good rest of your night. Big thank you to those guys for joining the show, talking about the Prowler. But now, let's move on, talk about the first Division III player this year to sign an NFL contract. This is the newest addition to the Seattle Seahawks. It's Mitch Vanvooren, the tight end from D3 St. Norbert in Wisconsin. And we had him on the show very recently. You guys need to go check out that episode. Great interview with Mitch. Really enjoyed having him on the program. Great player, incredible human as well. Absolute freak of nature, gifted athlete. But to talk about Mitch a little bit, former track and field athlete at D1 Marquette. He transitioned to D3 football at St. Norbert in Wisconsin, a little bit closer to home for him, although being still in state. In 22 games with St. Norbert, caught 65 passes, over 1,000 yards, 13 touchdowns. As a tight end, that's a pretty big impact in 2 years. Now, this is what stands out. This is a big part of the reason, along with that athleticism, that he is with the Seahawks now. 6'5", 245 pounds. Absolutely fits and checks every box when talking about playing football at the next level and playing professionally. He has the build, he has the gifted, just natural athleticism, and he started to show that production, albeit at the D3 level. He started to show those skills on the field. So he's signed now with the Seattle Seahawks, and what was really cool about his story as well, he actually read and kind of announced a 7th-round draft pick for the Miami Dolphins back in 2016. So he was the young kid at the time to go up there and announce the draft pick for the Dolphins, and it would have been a very cool story if he heard his name on draft night. Unfortunately, did not happen, but now has earned himself an opportunity in the NFL, which is such a cool deal. So very excited for Mitch and company down there. Here is the picture of Mitch putting pen to paper, inking the deal up in the St. Norbert shirt right there. That is the story, man. And an incredible story it is. Mitch, once again, had him on the show recently. Definitely go and check out that interview, but excited for him, excited for D3 football because we needed someone to get a deal done, right? We needed someone to get a deal done. We got it. Shout out to Mitch. And that's really all I've got for this episode. So thank you guys very much for tuning in to D1R. I appreciate you more than you know. Have a good rest of your night.